What is up, and welcome to a special edition of the Bruin Bible. It is Rivalry Week here at the LA Football Network. The Bruin Bible, getting on our USC correspondent for the LA Football Network, Ahmed Akkaoui. Ahmed, what is going on, my guy?
How's it going? Thank you so much for having me. This is super cool.
Dude, we're stoked to have you. It is about as big as it gets. Chip Kelly's job could be on the line this weekend after struggling in the first half against Colorado, a team that ranked 128 out of 130 FBS teams in total offense. They managed to come back and win that game in impressive fashion. Shout out to our dude Kyle Phillips, 82-yard punt return, big touchdown catch. Dorian Thompson-Robinson making big plays. But we are moving on to the big game of the week already. It is USC UCLA, and it has been a tough year for USC fans, Ahmed. I think that is an understatement to say the least. Kind of give me your assessment on what has gone wrong in South Central this year for the Trojans.
Well, the thing is, it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of different things. It's the fact of not really having a solid coach, and then 2 games in, firing him, and then going with someone who I don't know if I feel as comfortable saying not as much head coaching experience, but someone who's kind of an odd pick to be the head coach in Dante Williams. He's been doing a good job. Um, he's done the job for someone who is in the interim position. Getting all these guys to play under him, and since day one, essentially they've accepted the mantra of winning every day. Being 1-0 every day. That's his. That's been his thing since he started. Where his mentality is winning every day and being 1-0 every day. So the fact that he has been able to get everyone and do that. I mean, they're what 2 and now they're 4-4 under him, 4-3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've been doing okay, but I think it's a lot of other things despite the coaching.
I totally agree, man. It has kind of been a year from hell for USC. They kind of had the chance to pull the plug on Clay Helton, who I think a lot of USC fans felt was maybe not the guy they were looking for. And USC, this is a UCLA based podcast, but we know USC has those standards year in and year out where they want to be, the team has a player in the running for the Heisman. They want to be in competition for the national championship each and every year. Those Pete Carroll teams, the teams of the 70s, the 80s, players like those. And it just has not felt like USC for quite some time there. Clay Helton gets the axe. Dante Williams is the interim coach. Spoiler, we're going to get to some coaching potential hires later in the podcast, my guy Ahmed. But I want to talk to you about the quarterback battle that is brewing in USC. You have Kedon Slovis, who entered this year as the 2-year starter, who has struggled a little bit. He's got 11 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions on the year, over 2,000 yards through the air, and a 65% completion rate. But this true freshman has been getting a lot of buzz out there. Jackson Dart has stepped in and made some plays, most notably against Washington State when he came in for an injured Slovis, 6 touchdown passes, 3 picks. Give me your interpretation on the quarterback battle at USC, and who do you think is the best quarterback there?
Well, coming in, Jackson Dart was that person, right? So looking at recruitment, coming into the year, Miller Moss was the local guy, out of Bishop Alamany. And, he was the one that everyone thought might be the backup to Kedon. And then Jackson Dart comes out of Utah, and he had an amazing senior year. I don't have the total touchdowns he threw. I believe it's like 60, but he set a record. And now another USC commit, the quarterback there in the same school, is going to set another record. So that's an interesting one too. But, coming in, you kind of saw how Keaton played in the last 2 years. You have, two young guns in Moss and in Dart coming in and trying to compete for that backup spot. Dart ended up getting it. And as the year progressed, you saw Dart and Keaton kind of play side by side. Keaton got injured. Dart came in and he just played really well. And I think the interim head coach said, you know what, we're gonna try what we can try. And even against Arizona State, they played with two quarterbacks, and it was one of those things where they couldn't get the rhythm, and that's one thing that attributes to the loss. But I mean, as far as them, who's better, I have to go with Slovis because of the experience. But I think in the end, it might end up being Jackson Dart. Looking at it from the standpoint of this year, Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback. He's able to make the throws, but he gets a little overwhelmed sometimes. Where Keaton also may not be able to make the throws and get overwhelmed, but he's able to read a defense, and there's an ability to audible. If you see something in the defense where it is like double coverage or whatever else it is. So I think as far as the quarterback battle, Slovis is the better one, but Dart is starting against UCLA because Slovis is injured. What he has, it's kind of up in the air. That's one thing that USC has been, very, I guess, good at this year, is kind of hiding what's been going on. No one knew that Dart tore his meniscus until it was broken by an anonymous source that said, hey, he's having surgery on this in 2 days or whatever else it was. It wasn't until until that story broke, it was not spoken about in that coaching staff to the media. So it's Jackson Dart has done really well, especially coming off of surgery and all that stuff. So we'll have to see as time progresses how well Dart does. But as of right now, the guy has to be Slovis.
I love it. Dart has one of the coolest names just in general, Jackson Dart. That, I mean, it just screams quarterback from Central Casting. Did I get this right too? So he went from Utah. I know he picked up a late offer last year. The current quarterback of that Utah high school is coming to follow up Jackson Dart there as well.
Yeah, Devin Brown. Devin Brown, he's coming in this offseason. I mean, he's committed. He hasn't signed, but yeah, he's in line to join USC. So that quarterback battle might be even more interesting because
Wow. It
Devin
is
Brown is,
crazy.
yeah,
It is
he,
crazy to have a quarterback battle from, maybe some people in the same state, let alone the same high school.
mm-hmm.
That is going to be a storyline for USC fans moving forward into the future. And I think you made some good points about Slovis. I mean, when he came on in 2019, he really shook up the Pac 12 and what he was able to do. Had some monster performances. Graham Harrell, the offensive coordinator there, him and, Keaton really bonded. And he eventually became the guy there in South Central. Has really kind of struggled this year. He showed a little bit of signs of struggling last year as well, but he's had back-to-back monster performances against UCLA. 2019, he had 5 touchdown passes. Last year, he had 5 touchdown passes. So he's gotten 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in his 2 starts against UCLA. Slovis was preferred to be the guy, but Jackson Dart will be getting the start. I've been in Fresno all week. I must have missed that tidbit, but that is huge for the game. The true freshman Jackson Dart can make a start and maybe change the legacy of USC, UCLA. Carson Palmer came on late like that in the early 2000s. Matt Leinart came on late like that, for USC. So maybe Dart, maybe this is his time. Another guy I want to talk to you about, Ahmad, is Drake London. He will be missed as well, unfortunately. But boy, that guy, and we were having this conversation right before we started. To me, Drake London was on a fast track to maybe have the best individual season and maybe the best overall prospect of the recent string of USC wide receivers that have been talented enough to be a high selections. We're talking about the Robert Woods. We're talking about the Nelson Aguilars. And we're talking about Marquise Lee, who we believe before maybe Drake London had the greatest SC single season as a wide receiver. Do you think Drake London is the best prospect among those guys, or where do you believe he ranks among those four wide receivers, given what we have seen from him before he got injured this year?
Well, I mean, like we talked about before, I feel like it's kind of hard because looking at it, we don't know how his senior year would have or his junior year would have went. His last year at USC would have went if he didn't get injured. I mean, he surpassed 1,000 1,000 receiving yards in 8 games, right? And there's many more. He's pretty much in the running for the
Politnikov.
trophy. Yeah, so he's that person that's up there. He has to be a finalist, injured or not. It has to be that. Whether he wins it or not, it's dependent on if they want to take into account the games he played versus the games he didn't. Um, that's kind of a debate within the selection committee. But I mean, there's a reason why USC currently ranks number one in the Pac-12 in passing yards with 304.7, because majority of those passes were going to number 17. To Drake London was that person that, in trouble when they need it, he can make that catch. And I was
Yeah.
at that game. I had my binoculars in the press box, and he went down in the press box. Like the atmosphere just changed because you can already tell that it was going to be something serious. He got carted off, and then he came back. Leg was wrapped. You knew it was serious. And ever since then, I mean, the season has been pretty dull. I would say. I think that's the best word to say. Um, there's been a lot of ups and downs. They won one, they lost one, they win one, they lost one. They won their first game at home. A few games ago, right, or against Arizona, and then they had lost two or three straight at home. Um, so it was one of those things of winning and losing and not being able to necessarily like find their rhythm and all that.
Yeah, man. And Drake London, I was on a record pacing tear. Get this, 8 games of work, 88 catches, 1,084 yards, and 7 touchdowns. This man was averaging 11 catches a game. That is absurd to the highest extent. And I just want to compare it to some of the previous, wide receivers at USC. We've got Marquise Lee's stats. This might be the most impressive. He had 118 catches, 1,700 yards. I don't think Drake London was going to catch that, and
No,
14 touchdowns in his year of all years, which was 2012. He was outstanding to say the least. Let's go to Robert Woods, man. Robert Woods, his big year was 2011. So he had 111 catches, close to 1,300 yards receiving, 15 touchdowns. That was big. I think London would have surpassed that this year had he been healthy. He'd already clipped 1,000 yards in 8 games. Was going to clip, probably 115, 120 catches. Would he have gotten to the 15 touchdown catches? I don't know, but he would have probably had more catches and yards than our guy, Robert Woods. Bobby Trees, as he's referred to in the LA area. I hope he gets a speedy recovery. He's such a talented wideout. And then the last receiver is Nelson Aguilar, who came out a little later than these guys. And his biggest season was 2014, 104 catches, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. Drake London would have surpassed that too. So I think the only year that would have surpassed Drake London's current year had he stayed healthy would have been the maybe one of the greatest college football receiving years of all time, at least top 10, the Marquise Lee, 1,700 yards in 13 games. I mean, that is something special right there from our guy Marquise Lee. I want to do an ad read real quick before we get in to some UCLA players as well as USC players to talk about. We're going to go with MyBookie. From all the biggest games to the smallest events, make every bet worth your while with MyBookie. Start by doubling your first deposit instantly with MyBookie's first deposit bonus. Double your money before you even place a bet, and all you have to do is sign up and deposit using my exclusive promo offer, LAFB at MyBookie. There are tons of great games and prop bets to take advantage of this week, but let me point you in the right direction for your first wager. This Sunday, two powerhouse offenses meet when the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Dallas Cowboys. Them boys have been on a tear this season while the Chiefs continue to struggle to take on the Cowboys to cover the spread so you can walk away with the bread at MyBookie. Don't wait any longer. Head to MyBookie today to redeem your double deposit bonus so you can get in the game and start winning big today. That's promo code LAFB to receive double your first deposit instantly in your account. No hassle, no wait. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Ahmed, who you taking in that Cowboys Chiefs game, man?
I'm taking the Cowboys.
He's
I
riding with
think,
the Cowboys. All right.
yeah, I think the Chiefs are a solid team, but I think the Cowboys are kind of on the rise right now. The Chiefs, they have some work to do.
They look nice, man. That's going to be a fun game. Mahomes looked like he could have been back last week, but he has been struggling as of late. That's a game I'm going to get my popcorn from and, just enjoy a nice Sunday night football game there. Players to watch. We know Drake London is out. We know Jackson Dart is starting. I'm a UCLA fan. I want to know who we should be worried about on offense and defense for you guys. Just give me one player on both sides of the ball that UCLA fans should be aware of coming into this game.
I think on offense, definitely, if the run can be established, I think Keontae Ingram is going to be it's a big name. He's been running really solid lately. They were doing the two-headed monster for a little while with him and with Vavai Malapai, and then a little bit of Darwin Barlow. But now he's been getting a lot of the touches, and I think if they can establish the run against a defense that is pretty good against the run, I think Keontae Ingram can be that person. On defense, it's hard to name one, but I think the biggest name, the biggest person to block on that defensive line has to be Drake Jackson. He is the self-proclaimed quarterback killer, Mr. 99. He is really solid. I think it might be a stretch to compare him to Aaron Donald, but I think he brings on that kind of attention. But when you bring on that attention, you have someone like Tuli Pelotu who can come in down the middle. But I think Drake Jackson is going to be a game changer if he can get going, and get to that quarterback.
I love it, man. Keontae Ingram has been a guy that I think a lot of people have, targeted. Transfer from Texas, great tailback, averaging 5.9 yards a carry coming into this game, 5 touchdowns on the ground. He's got a chance to eclipse over 1,000 yards with a big game here. He's got 815 yards on the ground this season. Should be a good guy. And Drake Jackson, I mean, we knew about this guy coming into this year. The guy had 7.5 sacks coming into this year. He's gotten 5 on the year alone in 9 games. This guy's a stud. He can play. And I think UCLA has got to watch out where Jackson is lining up near the line of scrimmage at all times there. I'm going to give you guys a couple guys to watch out for. And I think you guys know a little bit about Dulcich. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows we are huge Greg Dulcich fans, the tight end for UCLA. He had a monster game against USC last year. 10 catches, 167 yards, and a touchdown. But that's not the guy I'm going to be saying it this week. It's going to be Kyle Phillips, the guy who has led the team in catches the last 2 years, has really come into his own this year, and has proven that he may have a chance to play at the next level when all is said and done after this year. He has had 2 career games against USC. 2019, 12 grabs, 123 yards as a sophomore playing that game. Really balled out against a talented USC team. And then last year, a little less flashy, but 8 catches, 63 yards, did his part, and unfortunately came down to the defense blowing it for UCLA late. Kyle Phillips is my guy. You got to watch out for. I think he is a stud. And then our secondary is so bad, Ahmed. It is terrible. We're ranking like 122nd out of 130 teams in terms of pass defense. But the one guy back there that I really want to target, Quentin Lake, when he's healthy, he makes big plays. If you go back and watch that LSU film, he's batting passes, he's making big plays. Even last year, he had a highlight reel interception against Keaton Slovis that really gave UCLA some momentum there in the first half. Quentin Lake is an NFL prospect. I don't know if he's going to get drafted day 2 or day 3, but he will be on a training camp roster. The guy can play. Watch out for Quentin Lake. Those are my 2 guys for you. And now I want to discuss, my guy, what is your prediction, the final score for USC UCLA?
Looking at how USC has played at home and seeing that, USC is not it's not a sure thing at home. I think it's going to be a battle. I think USC is not going to pull it through. I think, as far as I know, the spread is still 3 points. Yeah, it's going to be at least a touchdown. I think UCLA is going to win by a touchdown, even though that kind of hurts a little bit to say. But this USC team is not it's not it. The secondary is solid. Having a great nickelback in Greg Johnson, having two solid safeties in Palamau, and once in a while in Kalen Bullock. That's my man. Pasadena kid, man. I love that kid. And having having 2 solid corners in Chris Steele and in Isaac Taylor Stewart, they've kind of been lacking, and those safeties have been lacking a little bit, and I've had to cover a lot of ground. So I think it's going to be hard for USC to keep those UCLA wide receivers and Dulcich. Oh man, he might have a career day. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
Guy's a stud, man. He had a huge game against you guys last year. Dulcich, Kyle Phillips, those guys are more than capable for doing big things. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think I see a lot of potential in Dart to become the face of the USC program for the next few years. I just don't know if it'll be happening in the next few games. I'm taking UCLA over USC 45-31. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson gets a big-time victory over USC. It will be his first in 3 tries. We got a solid run game with Charbonnet, Britton Brown back there. We can open up the passing attack. I think things will go at least smoothly offensively. I think UCLA gets it done. They get to 7 wins and squarely position themselves to maybe get to the 8-win threshold before bowl season in their final game against Cal. Now here's the fun part for us, because everyone and their mother wants to know, where's USC going to go with the head coaching hire? And I know, Ahmad, you have your opinions on who USC should hire, who they should not. I'm going to give you some names. You may know some of these names. You may not know some of them. I'd be happy to inform you if you do not know some of the other names. But give me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited you would be as a USC fan if this guy was the next hire for USC football.
Okay.
Does that sound like a fun game?
That's a fun game. I like that.
Let's do it, Ahmad. The first guy I got for you, and personally for me, I think this guy is the closest thing you would get to an Urban Meyer, because he's a former Urban Meyer assistant, has changed the culture at Cincinnati, has a 51-21 career record. That's a 70.8 win percentage. That's Luke Fickell. And he's had Cincinnati in the top 10 the last 2 years. Cincinnati, a non-Power 5 school. He's close with the AD. Bone. Is it Bond or Bone?
Bond,
because Bond came from Cincinnati. He's the guy who hired Fickell there. So this could be a big deal if he comes to SC, has the previous relationship with Bond. If I was a betting man, I think this guy might be the most likely to come to USC. Give me your thoughts on Luke Fickell. 1 out of 10. How excited would you be?
How excited I would be? 10.
10. Let's go.
I feel like that's probably the best option if he leaves Cincinnati. if. Now, from this article that I'm reading here, he said to the LA Times, I keep telling him that Cincinnati's not a destination, that you got to move on from there. I spent, oh, no, that's a former Buckeye head coach. Whoops. Uh,
All good,
actually,
man.
yeah, wrong quote. Didn't read it all the way through. I think Fickle is that guy. Vegas has him at a plus 450. Um, I think he's probably the closest to that long-term coach that everyone is looking for. Um, I see a lot of talk about having the next Pete Carroll or bringing back the Pete Carroll days and things like that, and that's really hard because Pete Carroll was someone who changed the culture for the better, and since him, there hasn't been anyone at that level. You bring in, coach, you have first you have Stark. Um, he was decent. And then you have, Coach O. And then you brought in
If
oh
it, or
man,
no, it's yeah, Lane Kiffin.
Sarkisian, yeah, Lane Kiffin. I forgot the name.
All
And
good.
it's those are three coaches. I mean, Coach O is solid, but he just didn't work at USC. And then you have Clay Helton, who did what he could. But I think Luke Fickle can be that person if he's willing to leave Cincinnati. Now that's a program that he might not want to leave, and that's where the questions lie.
I agree. I think he would be a home run for you guys if you can get him. He's proven if you can build a football program at Cincinnati, you can do the same with the resources that USC has and the history and the program that is there. The next guy I got for you, James Franklin, Penn State. This guy is rumored to have some sort of interest and connection to the open USC job. Whether he'd want to leave Penn State or not is a big question. But boy, if you can get your hands on James Franklin, I think this guy is also a culture changer. 66 and 32. And when you're looking at the worst, teams in the Power 5, it's oftentimes Vanderbilt is there. University of Arizona is probably that for the last few years, but Vanderbilt's there. This man, before he went to Penn State, had back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt. Like, just think about how crazy that is. Vanderbilt is one of the worst Division I football teams in the SEC. They have to play top-notch competition. That is highly, highly impressive. If you can get that guy to come to SC, that could arguably be a better hire than Fickle, and I am incredibly high on Fickle. Give me your thoughts on Mr. James Franklin potentially coming to USC.
Personally, I think he is the ideal candidate.
There you
But
go.
Penn State is Penn. It's very, very hard to leave Penn State. Now, I think Fickle can leave Cincinnati, though I don't think he will. I don't see James Franklin leaving Penn State because that's a football school, and he has the best opportunity there. He makes good money. He has an amazing record. He has good recruitment. I yeah, I feel uncomfortable talking about him because it's a pipe dream, in my opinion. I
Hey,
think it's
man, you
gonna
never know. I know you
yeah.
mentioned Penn State as a football school, but I could argue USC has just as good, if not better, like football history there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think USC, you get LA back on the map. I mean, it's a central of the West Coast. You can do some big, big things at SC.
That
Franklin,
would be
okay,
huge.
1 out of 10. You got to give me the you. How excited would you be if Franklin came? Would it be like an 11?
Uh, if I have Fickle at a 10, then Franklin has to be a 20.
I
And I'm
love it.
and now I'm going beyond the parameters that we set for this game. So it's kind of unfair, but yeah, I it's that is the ideal candidate in my opinion.
All right. Well, I got a couple other ones for you, and you can rank these from how interested you are to how least interested you are. The names that have come up consistently And some of these are long shots. Some of these are just interesting guys to throw into the mix. You've got Dan Mullen, who it sounds like Florida's going to move on from him. He has done, solid job at Florida before this year. Really rebuilt that Mississippi State team. Had them competing at a high level in the SEC, which is very tough traditionally for Mississippi State. Dan Mullen's one of the names. Dave Aranda, who was the former LSU defensive coordinator, started out 2-6 at Baylor, replacing Matt Rule, and now he's off to an 8-1 start with Baylor this year. Very intriguing name there. And then the other three. This is where it gets interesting. My dream hire. I'm a UCLA fan. I shouldn't even be giving you guys these thoughts. Deion Sanders to USC. And I know it sounds crazy, but if you got coordinators to match it up, he would never lose a recruiting battle. You bring prime time into your living room. What player would not want to play for prime time? That is just my personal stance on it. Deion Sanders has got to be in there. Eric Bieniemy, he's an offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He's kind of the guy who's gotten Mahomes to where he's at. Has LA ties from the area, so he could pitch to quarterbacks. I know what it takes to be great. I coach Mahomes. I'm from this area. Let's bring back LA. Might take an LA guy to bring back USC football. And then the last one I got for you, the long shot. What about bringing Coach O back? National champion, just got fired from LSU, but he had success here, and he was a part of the Carroll staff. If you want to get a guy that's like Pete Carroll, what better than having a guy that was from that coaching tree? So give me who you'd be most interested out of those names that I just listed.
I think the most interesting would be bringing back Coach O. I think that's a big name, and what he brings to the table, whether it be coaching and recruiting, and he's able to bring in other talents and coordinators and whatnot to be able to have success with the team that we have, as well as bringing in new talent in the 2022 recruiting class. Now, some of them are kind of dwindling away, so it kind of depends who's going to come in. But I think that's probably the best option as of the available people. Aranda is an interesting name that I saw a lot, as well as Bieniemy. I don't think that Bieniemy is going to be leaving KC. I feel like he's good in Kansas City. So I think, Coach O might be it. Baylor's a decent school, so maybe Aranda stays there. He's building that program up. So I think that's kind of an iffy one. But
what about Deion? What do you think about Deion?
Okay, so Deion Sanders is the guy, right? He is a solid football figure. And we all know that, he is a personality. And I have seen that name get thrown around. But I don't feel like he would be the ideal candidate for the USC job. Now, I say that because USC fans are very critical of everything when it comes to, their coaching, when it comes to their players and all that, where I think he's the LA figure, he has the personality for LA, but I don't see him fitting as well. I think him being at a small school is good, and then he can build up to a bigger school, but I don't think that jump would work, in my opinion.
All right, man. I love it. So Coach O would be your favorite out of that. Yeah. So just so I'm getting it, James Franklin, Luke Fickell, Coach O, that's your top three.
Yeah, I think so. But I think Coach O, since the other two are under contract, it's kind of a pipe dream in itself. I don't know what else, what other names are going around. Personally, as soon as Clay Helton got fired, I thought about Chris Peterson. Now that's a long shot in itself because he's an analyst now. He's on TV and he's away from coaching, but he knows Pac-12 football. He knows USC. So I think that's also kind of a name. I mean, if we're going in whatever, whatever direction, why not? But
Why not
I
Chris
think
Peterson? I like it. Ahmed, thank you so much for coming on. I had an awesome time. Bruin Bible, we're out.